I'm Richard Truitt, the engineering and technology reporter for Automotive News. Today, I'm with Brian Chambers, Chief Operating Officer at Bollinger Motors. Now, we are at Rous Enterprises in suburban Detroit. Everybody knows about Rous. They make those high-performance Mustangs, racing parts, but they also have another part of their business where they build vehicles under contract for other automakers. Their next big project is the B4 electric delivery truck that Bollinger will start production of in the second half of this year. Brian, could you tell us how Bollinger selected Rous to be the contract manufacturer? I know that you guys scrutinized a lot of companies. What gave Rous the heads up on this?
Well, thank you for having me here today, too.
Sure.
We went through about a 3-year process, and Rous came out due to their capabilities, their reputation. Also, they've done programs similar to this before. So their engineering, they actually have a flexible manufacturing group, which is this area we're in here right now in Livonia in this building.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty easy decision. They're close to us, they're 20 minutes away. That helps quite a bit with logistics. We're gonna have a lot of issues going back and forth. So they're a great team to work with. They're actually doing our testing with us too of our vehicles. So we're actually using their other divisions too.
Roughly how many companies did you scrutinize before you selected Rous?
In all, about 8 across the country, as far as California, Indiana, Ohio. A couple here in Detroit. Again, Rous was the closest proximity, but it was a pretty lengthy process. Like I said, I actually started about 4 years ago, but the last 3 years, 2 years, we've been just working on it, doing RASICs with them, a lot of face-to-face statement of works, writing a lot of paperwork. It's quite a big process to actually go through.
So an electric truck is actually a pretty complex piece of machinery. Can you tell us a little bit about how the manufacturing process works? In other words, did you design the way the truck will be built and hand it off to Rous, or did you guys sit together as two teams and work together figuring out the most efficient way to put it together?
Sure. Yeah, the way the B4 was processed was jointly with Rous, actually. We have our AME group and their AME group. It's built of manufacturing engineers, industrial engineers, process engineers, and we spent about the last year actually writing a scroll, which is the step-by-step process for every nut and bolt and part of how to go together. Our engineers led that process because it's our product, obviously, and then the Rous engineers had the buy-in because at the end of the day they have to actually build the vehicle. It's their responsibility. So it's been a joint effort. We actually built DV prototypes here back in September to actually prove that process out, and now we're refining it to actually finalize it for production.
Did Bollinger ever consider building the B4 and the B5 that's coming later itself?
Oh yeah, Robert and I were looking at buildings. We thought we could do it ourselves, and after a couple of years of going through buildings and trying to hire people, we realized it wasn't the right focus. We needed to focus on the product. And then Robert always wanted to do contract manufacturing. I'm from manufacturing, so I really wanted to do it ourselves, but we realized that we need to focus on the product and let Rous contract manufacture it for us.
So regardless of where and how the B4 is built, the one thing that it has to have is quality. How does Bollinger ensure that every vehicle that gets shipped to a customer is going to be put together properly? In other words, like all the nuts and bolts are torqued down right, the wires are routed properly, the cooling system works. Will Bollinger have engineers here that when the truck is at the end of the line and gets handed off, that you'll take it for a test drive? Or how does that process work?
Sure, yeah, quality is probably one of the biggest things. So it actually starts at the suppliers, our suppliers. We're going through our PPAP right now. We've sourced the parts. Tooling is being done. Now the parts are starting to be made, so it starts now with that. And then once the parts are done and approved by our quality engineers, they'll start shipping here in the Rous, which they're actually inspected then too. Rous will have quality people all throughout the line at different stations doing audits, torque audits, assembly audits, checking off procedures. They also will have an end of line that they will be responsible for all the quality checks to assure that everything's done and actually hand it off to our program management and quality people. We'll have another end of line station that we will do our final paperwork and our final inspection after that. So it's probably one of the biggest steps in the whole process. Again, if we don't put a good product out there, especially being a startup, it won't be good for us. So.
Give us an idea of how you've tested the vehicle, because in testing that can expose a lot of problems. How has the B4 been tested in real world conditions?
Yeah, right now we're actually on the way to Arizona Proving Grounds. We're out at Chelsea Proving Grounds doing durability testing. We have 12 of the DVs that we built here out testing, typical OEM test requirements. We feel that we have to, it's limited amount of time to get there. We have a engineering test group that we hired. Like I said, we're actually using Rous, and they probably have more people, test engineers, than we do. So it's been a good benefit to us.
So we're in this gigantic area here that's being configured as we speak. Can you walk us through the steps of what will take place between now and when production starts? What's going to happen in here?
Sure. Yeah, so like I said, this is where we built the DVs in September. This was all manual, just prove out and try out equipment. This will be the corner of the start of the production area, which will go both directions that way, about 60,000 square feet. So right now we have our rolls dyno, our alignment machines, fluid fills machines all being built and assembled. So those will start arriving here in May, along with the tooling and the fixtures, and we'll start laying the line out. This area is probably going to be our end of line area, where the final inspection will be, but it'll be a manual line. We'll have conveyors that'll take the products through the line, but again, low volume, but we'll start with what we call semi-automation. So there'll be about 40 to 50 Rous people probably on the line once we're up and running.
We've seen other automakers like Rivian and Tesla and others have a very slow ramp because they're monitoring quality and they just want to make sure everything's working properly. Do you envision a slow ramp also? Because these really aren't as complex as some of the cars that are out there, because it's basically a frame and a cab. Can you ramp quicker, or is it slow ramp?
No, it'll be a slow ramp. So the B4, the Bollinger B4 is a simple build. Commercial trucks are simpler. They're not as complicated as passenger cars. But no, we want to make sure we're doing everything right. We'll also be checking the vehicles, taking them to tests that we build initially off the line, and then we'll have an okay to ship, which is when we're actually comfortable and satisfied with the vehicles that we built, that the quality is good and everything is right. So we probably won't be up to speed until December.
Okay. What's the market like for a class 4 truck like the B4? We know that there's a lot of tax incentives. Is the market strong for that kind of product right now?
Yeah, there's really no, not competition, but we're the only one in the class 4 electric market right now. There's probably competition coming, but with the federal incentives, the state incentives, a lot of the fleets are adapting and going to that. The electrics, the volumes will be slow to begin with, and the acceptance, as with range and charging anxieties and issues, that's coming into play. But the fleets are accepting it more than the general public is, so that's actually a plus for us. We actually are working with the charging companies to help the fleets. So we're trying to do an eco circle of everything to bring the fleets everything that they need.
So if we look back at the history of Bollinger Motors, it's been about a 7-year ride, and now you're getting close to production. What's keeping you up at night in terms of things that could cause issues?
Yeah.
Have you got all your suppliers on board, and you're confident in the product? But there's always something, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. It's probably supply chain, which you probably hear all the time. It seems like there's always something new that comes up, and the biggest thing we're hearing from our suppliers are the long lead times from their tier 2s and tier 3s. So, and everyone wants to protect themselves, obviously. So that's probably the biggest thing, are the lead times that we have. Because our volumes are so small, we're not ordering in large volumes, so it doesn't matter if we miss a couple shipments. Every shipment will be critical. So I would say that probably the supply chain is the biggest thing, and I'm very happy with our manufacturing team, our engineering team. The vehicles are going well on tests, so we're progressing very well as far as that goes.
Are there any concerns at all about the business model of contract manufacturing?
Not really. No, I think it gives us time to focus on the Bollinger product, and let them worry about the assembly, the infrastructure, the hiring. So, no, that's why it was Robert had to convince me, but it was pretty easy to switch over to that. And Rous, they know what they're doing.
if the B4 is successful and the one that comes later, the B5, and some other products you have on the burner, if those are successful, does Bollinger eventually have to look at taking production in-house someday?
We're having discussions about that. Yeah, we're considering it. For right now, it's Rous, and we'll stick with them for a while. As the volumes grow, we have to see where the volume goes and the acceptance too over the years. But long term, I would say yes, and we've had those discussions with Rous.
Thank you, Brian. It was great talking to you today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Rich.